Good evening. Welcome to the March 3rd, 2025 West Clermont School Board meeting. Mr. Romano, will you take roll, please?
Mr. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Rudy.
Present.
Ms. Sanborn.
Present.
Mrs. Spencer.
Present.
And Mr. Chumley's been delayed? Correct.
Yes, he'll be here.
Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looks like first up is the motion to adopt the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion? Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Any discussion? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn.
Yes.
4 yes.
Thank you. Next up is public speaking. Visitors who wish to address the board are asked to state their name, address, and school or organization. Remarks must be addressed to the board and should be brief. 3 minutes and to the point. Speakers may offer such as objectives, criticisms, or suggestions regarding school operations or programs. The board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel or against a person connected with any school district unless those complaints have first been addressed through the individual departments or administration involved. We do have one speaker, Mr. Rich.
Thank you. Is that on? Yeah. Yeah, can you hear me? Sure. I can't hear myself. Sometimes that might be better. Thank you, first of all, to Dan and Natasha for getting me the requested information regarding the social engineering event that happened a few years back. Second of all, I wanted to ask about, Ohio law requires our district to allow employees to keep 120 hours of sick time accrued in a sick bank. And our employees are allowed to carry 364 hours, which is more than 3 times the amount that's required as a minimum by law. That's the equivalent of 2 years of paid leave. Along with 2 years of unpaid leave, we could be holding on to an employee for 4 years, obviously 2 of those unpaid, but that's 2 years of unencumbered, unfunded expense that we probably can't put up with, depending on how many people might have to use that benefit. And also on top of that, you're paying a substitute for that entire 2-year period while you're paying the employee and the substitute. At retirement, I know they can cash those hours out. Anything up to 264 hours, they get paid out at 25% of. And anything up to between 264 and 364, they get paid at 10%. If you average that out, it's about 77 days, I believe I calculated, that they would get paid out for at the end of their retirement. But that's also assuming that an employee goes for 30 years without using a single day of their sick time, which I think is an unusual ask for a lot of people. On top of that, you guys have a joint fund where people can donate sick time into, which could extend that 2 years of time out, depending on how much time was funded into that fund. And if the committee allows them to use that, an additional 30 days could be given to a person in that situation. I think there are better ways to do that. There's probably some savings you guys could have by funding that a little bit differently, along with the baseline. I think you used 5,000 hours, 5,200 some odd hours as your baseline. If the district went at half of that throughout the next year, then teachers would be given a refund based off of the savings that the district realized on that. And I think there's a better way to fund that also. And then lastly, the JED agreement, I believe it's for the property at the high school where there was a 1% earnings tax that was put in place, and teachers are being refunded, from what I understand, that 1%, and I'm just kind of wondering why teachers are being refunded a 1% tax when we're asking taxpayers to increase the amount of tax that they're paying. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Moving to Superintendent's Business Transportation Contracts.
Sure.
So we, as you remember, back in January, we came to you, or maybe it was even in December, we came to you to talk about putting out transportation RFP, in which we did do that. And so we took proposals. Mr. Romano, myself, and Mr. LaFata interviewed 2 vendors last week, looked through the proposals. We feel very comfortable with one of those proposals, and so we're gonna ask the board to approve. For the next step would then be to approve the authorization of the superintendent treasurer to then go into negotiate those proposals that came forward, put it in contract form, and then we will bring that to you at the next board meeting for your approval. So we would ask you to approve that this evening for the superintendent and treasurer to move forward negotiating the contract.
Well, I think that you should provide the board with information before you ask us to approve something just off of the cuff, so to speak.
We can do that.
Well, again, if I understood correctly, we're giving you authorization to go negotiate the contracts.
And we will
Go
provide the
speak with them to
contract.
see the companies, and then, once they get the prices negotiated, then they'll come back and that's make the finalization. We're not voting on any.
Not voting on a contract tonight,
There's
just
no
move
contract
forward.
signed. We're just saying, we want you guys to go move forward and get additional information.
Well, the way this is worded, it says transportation contract. So it sounds like you're asking us to approve these two companies,
So
the
when
way
I-
that was worded.
when I
That's
read-
why I looked at that.
I understand. When I read that, I thought the same thing, so I wanted to see what he had to say, and that's, so again, if I understood him correctly, I thought the same thing when I first read it, so.
Yes, we're not voting on a contract tonight. We're just voting on giving the treasurer and the superintendent the authorization to move forward in contract language with the company that we have chosen. Then you will get a contract for that. You will see that prior to the vote.
How many proposals did you get?
We had three.
There aren't a whole lot of bus transportation.
No, there's not. So we had three different proposals, and two of them that we did in person meet with. The third did not meet the specifications or requirements needed.
So you've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sanborn. Is there any more discussion? Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move into State of the Schools. And Dan, I think I'll have you just run the slides so we're not passing
Okay,
the baton around so much. So hang with me, right?
got it.
So this year's theme of State of the Schools is West Clermont Strong, and it's because we are proudly putting a spotlight on the resilience and the remarkable journey of transformation that we have been on as a school system. And since the COVID times, and even before COVID-19, we had certain challenges that we needed to overcome. And we went into the pandemic, bracing ourselves, but also saying to ourselves, we're going to come back out of this. We're going to be better and stronger. We're not going backwards. We don't want to go back to how things were, and we've stayed committed to that. So not only have we emerged out of these tough times in a recovered state in many ways, we've also emerged stronger. We have advanced educational outcomes. We've advanced how we work with our community and engage with them. And we've done this with a lot of creativity and determination as we move forward. And we included our students on this theme, determination, and they really thought West Clermont Strong really embodied what it feels like and what it is like to be part of a West Clermont Wolf. And this is from high school kids, just saying it's our resilience, it's our grit, it's our perseverance that makes us who we are. We're West Clermont Strong. And what we want to propose tonight to you is that, yes, we are West Clermont Strong, but as any healthy organization or any healthy human being, you don't want to just settle for where you are and say, oh, well, we've gotten some muscles, we've improved our nutrition, so let's just sit back and ride it out. We want to continue to get stronger. We want to continue to get better. We want to keep the momentum going because we want to be a school district that leaves a legacy of excellence and forward thinking and when it comes to our education. And if you look at your aspirational vision here, it reminds you of the things that were set forth to me when I came here 7 years ago and that we've revisited every year. You guys reaffirmed it last February, that these things felt really far away to me when I first read them 7 years ago. And when you go down the list and read them one by one, you realize that there is some piece of evidence on every single one of these, that this is what's happening in the district, and it's only getting stronger and better. And we're here again to say, thank you for this vision that you've given the district. and the direction that you've given the district as it helps us align all of our plans and to have really clear outcomes that we're going for. So thank you for that. So the next slide just shows the rest of them. And in every State of the School report, we aim to say where we've been, where we're going, and this year I included in there like why this vision is so important, because knowing not just what's happening but why it's happening is vital, so we want to make sure that's incorporated in there. We want to talk about what's next, and we want everyone to understand by the end what their role is in being a part of this together as one community thing that we use in our vision, that it's not just about the school board, it's not just about the teachers, and it's not just about the students. It's about us, it's our partners, it's our leadership, it's everyone working together in our community. So we're going to begin with Ryan as he is speaking on behalf of the board today, opening with his president message.
Thank you. Good evening, school board members, faculty, staff, students, and community members. It is an honor to address you all here tonight and share my thoughts on the state of our schools. West Clermont Strong 2025 is this year's theme. It's essential that we, as a district, evaluate our past, present, and future. To maintain West Clermont's progress, we must discuss modernizing our workforce, learning environment, and community and stakeholder partnership. We, as a district, need to continue with West Clermont on the rise. West Clermont boasts an award-winning staff, including the 2025 Ohio Teacher of the Year and 2024 Martha Holding Jennings Foundation Jennings Master Teacher of the Year. The latter award included an $8,500 grant for a project of the recipient's choosing. Additionally, the Ohio Association of School Nurses has named our supervising nurse as the School Nurse Administrator of the Year for 2024-2025. Superintendent Ms. Natasha Adams also received the Buckeye Association of School Administration 2024 Dick Maxwell Finance Award, which recognizes leaders who understands finances and can educate and empower others in the field. The Ohio Department of Education and Workforce has recognized several West Clermont schools with Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, PBIS for short, award for the 2023-2024 school year. Additionally, our high school has been ranked among the top 20% of high schools nationally by the U.S. News and World Reports and the top 19 in the state of Ohio. 28 of our students, representing 5% of their class, have been given an award, a prestigious award of the 2025 Ohio Governor's Merit Scholarship. This accomplishment highlights their academic excellence, leadership, skills, and commitment to their future endeavors. We continue each year to partner with a variety of local businesses, universities, civic organizations, and hospitals to help students learn and grow. Most recently, local news featured the district's aviation program. West Clermont School actively seeks community engagement and values their feedback from its stakeholders. The district has utilized surveys, focus groups, town hall meetings, and building tours to gather insights and understand the community's priorities for the future. As West Clermont Board of Education President, I appreciate all of the hard work and dedication seen every day by everyone. I am truly grateful to be a part of this journey and look forward to the future of West Clermont School District. Thank you.
Well, and I'm happy to say that when you mentioned the grant that was awarded to one of our teachers, the video that we're going to show a little bit later today will show you some evidence of how that's being used. So it's timely. We'll keep going. We had Love WC last week, and I really just wanted to take a pause here to thank our companies. We had Big B Coffee, Dickey's Barbecue, City Barbecue, and Chick-fil-A all support us in new ways, so they dedicated the entire day to West Clermont, so we get some of those donations back. It just helped us elevate our celebrations, and I know this year we had well over 2,000 shout-outs that went out, and so we're just thankful for everyone for taking a moment to really show appreciation to our staff. West Clermont, truly, at its core, we're a learning organization, and the way that we make a large school district feel smaller is by this one key action. We know every student's name, their story, their strengths, and their needs, and we respond. We take that very seriously. We also live out our vision, our mission, and our values. These aren't just words on a wall or words that you see on our website. We wake up every day ready to commit to excellence with every learner, every day in every way. And I'm especially proud of that every way part of that. When we started with that mission, that every way part had a limited definition. And as time has gone on, it continues to grow and grow and grow in the ways we're able to serve our students. And for you guys, it was important in your board aspirations to make our community and our family engagement strong so that we had a lot of support and mutual pride in our school system. And so your expectation has really propelled us far when it comes to our community and family engagement. So I want to take us just down history lane here for a minute. We started in the school year 21-22 in identifying the current state of things, looking at our district challenges, and identified those 5 things that we wanted to spend time on. Student well-being and staff well-being and safety was just slightly ahead of educational programming, but those 2 things always came out as the top 2. And then related to those 2 was the idea of purpose and design of schools, and that's why we've spent some time really unpacking that, because it's like, well, what does that really mean? And we knew it was going to be connected to how we configured our district in the future, how we set up our programming, and how we designed our buildings, and how we truly prepared students. And our CAC helped us define that the purpose of school today should be helping students be future ready. So that's really where we've focused our attention. As soon as we identified those challenges, and I want to include transportation and facilities in that, we moved into the journey of the wolf to say, what is it really going to take to ensure that every student is portrait of a graduate ready so that they can enroll, enlist, employ, or be an entrepreneur as they move on in post-graduation. From there, we wanted to take a look at our facilities, to look at our learning environments and the purpose and design of schools. If you're going to be a school that helps students be future ready, what does the environment need to look like? What conditions need to be in place? And we continued that conversation. Then, as time progressed, we developed the Blazing New Trails strategic plan that was approved by you guys at the end of last school year. And as we look to the future, we turned our conversations to then, how do we finance this? If these are the conditions that we need to ensure that our students are future ready, what are going to be those investments that are important to make, not only of our finances, but of our time and our talents as we move forward? And as you can see, there's a blank there. We do about 6 of these a year, and we have no intention of slowing that down. We want to continue this conversation as time goes on. Ryan, you mentioned this in your opening, but community engagement through a variety of methods have been how we've elevated the voice of our students and our staff, our families, and our community, how we've really tried to help everyone feel like we're in this together. And there's no silver bullet here to solve any of these problems. These are all integrated, interrelated problems, and it was going to take all of us to dream big about what West Clermont can be and should be, and then to work together to make it happen. So our big takeaway from the community engagement, as we listened and responded and looked to the future, was that these 5 challenges can't be fixed by using old methods. We're not going to incrementally tweak one thing at a time. It's not like you can work on safety for a minute and then work on educational program. All these ideas go together. And the best way to forge forward in the future is to change conditions in the school district. And that's where the 4 ideas come in. We've got to modernize our learning. We have to, just go back, modernize our educator workforce, our learning environments, and our family and community partnerships so that we can truly ensure that all students are future ready. And as we've listened and responded, you can see this is just a reminder, and it's not it doesn't absolutely include everything that we've added, but this shows that what we heard and what we learned from our stakeholders about what they think was most important that they wanted inside of our system. Because as you know, West Clermont for a long period of time just went without things. And the opportunity with the valuation increase as well as the ESSER funds allowed us to infuse more money toward the classroom, more toward the student experience, more toward our staff. And we're really seeing some great outcomes based on that very precise and structured investment. I have on this, and I won't read through it because Ryan highlighted a lot of these, but every year I chronicle the big things that have happened. And I didn't include from 2017 all the way till now, but I do have it at the end of the slideshow, just as a point of reference to show the different kinds of things that we've infused into the system and the outcomes that we've seen. And as I mentioned earlier, we're moving toward this idea of blazing new trails. And we decided this about this time last year, that the road to success was only going to take us so far. It was too rigid, too structured, too defined, that didn't lend itself to the personalization that our students want and that our families want for our students. And so that's why we kind of changed our metaphors to blazing new trails, so that we can help students be prepared for anything, not just something. And we created the strategic plan that offered these specific goals. Number one, Portrait of a Graduate. Every student graduates with meaningful employment or higher education opportunities. Notice, this isn't every student graduates and has a diploma. We want it to mean more than that. That's the competitive advantage of West Clermont School District. And then there are goals around pathways and performance, our people, and our places. I won't read those goals, mainly because I can't see them from sitting here. And Ellie and Randy and David will be reiterating those as we go forward. So, Randy, over to you.
So when we started looking at Portrait of a Graduate, back in 2019 is when we started looking at this. And we go back to that as a group of us went to Patel, and we came back and we started to work through focus groups, students, parents, staff members. And as we started to go through this, and Natasha already talked a little bit about the 4 E's. We started talking about pathways. We started talking about, okay, we come to high school, what does that mean? How do we focus? How do we get a focus? How do we get a pathway? And that's when we went to the 4 E's. We started with 3 E's, then we added another one of entrepreneurship. But when we looked at employ, enroll, and enlist, we wanted students to have a focus when they walked down the hallway, when they came into the high school, even before they came into the high school. These are things that we wanted to start even at the middle school level. So when you start thinking about not narrowing it down, but looking at your options, those are the things that we looked at. We talked about soft skills. We talked about durable skills. We looked at and did research on Gen Z. What does it mean to be Gen Z? How do you work with the Gen Z? This was different for our staff. And as we started to look at the Portrait of a Graduate, and we started to look at how do you develop a culture of high expectations. And as we did this, we started to narrow it down, and we were able to look at the Portrait of a Graduate, which is the next one. And so this has been with us now since 21?
20 really, but we were, it was COVID, so it's kind of a blur.
It was online in 20.
We understood resiliency and adaptability
Yes.
as a huge feature. That's what slapped us in the face then.
So when we look at this, it's focused on students. And I'm going to look at this from two different lenses. I'm going to look at it from a high school principal or recovering high school principal, and I'm going to be looking at it from operations because they correlate. And I think those are the things as we go forward, we have to make sure that we connect the two. Because as we look at what students are going to be prepared for, obviously academic and life skills, things that we focused in on with teaching and learning, our teachers, our staff. You saw all the improvements, and Ryan talked about some of the things that the accomplishments, being in the top 20%, that is an accomplishment. That is a major national accomplishment that we came into we didn't have before. And so when you look at those academic and life skills, you look at the communication and collaboration, okay, when you look at that, you have the opportunity to do that in the school that you currently are. Character and integrity, leader and me, those are the things that we've put in. Those are programs that we've gone out, that you have approved and gone out and brought into this district. And what I see with that now, it's the same thing as when we started looking at our culture and we started looking at the language of the culture. When you start looking at the language, and I'm starting to hear teachers, I'm starting to hear students, I'm starting to hear in our meetings using the language of leader and me. That's when you change culture, is when you can talk about it, you can see it, you can breathe it, and you know what you're talking about. And I think that's what's important when you start to look at character and integrity, you look at the programs. Innovation and creative thinking is pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, in that classroom, the expectation is we wanted to be innovative. We wanted our students working harder than our teachers, and we wanted to be able to offer them opportunities. And you see things like the Wolf Lab and things like that. That is outside the box. That is what I consider a best practice that will bring people in to take a look at what we're doing. That's innovative, and all the credit to the people that put that into place, because to me, those are the things that you can put a benchmark on. Those are the things that people will come to you to see how you're doing things, and it's incredible. Resiliency and adaptability, obviously we've gone through that. Now take a look at it through the operations. When I look at those and see all the pieces of that Portrait of a Graduate on what we have coming up, how is it going to affect academics? How is it going to affect academics is if we have to use money that is earmarked towards, from the general fund to our teaching and learning and have to put that back into operations, obviously that's going to have a factor. You don't want to divert that money away from our students. And if we have facilities that we're going to have to do that, it's going to have to come from somewhere. Collaboration, do we have collaboration space in every building the same? No, we know that. So when I look at it from operational standpoint, how do I put our staff, how do I put our students, how do I put our teachers in the best possible learning environment that can afford some type of collaboration and communication with students? Integrity, we already talked about. Innovation, when we look at the media centers, when we look at what we want to be able to do in the future to offer our students those opportunities, those are things that are at risk if we don't move forward with basically with our buildings and with that physical plan. And then resilience and adaptability, changing world every single day, and that's what we have to deal with. And so I see it both from what we do in the classroom to what we do from operations, and they do have a factor on one another. When you look at what we have for the progression, one of the biggest things that we came in with always, we want 100% of our students to graduate. That is the goal. It's not 99, it's not 96. We want 100% of our students to walk across the stage with the skill set that they are able to go out into the world and do and be proactive, productive. Because when we first started looking at the pathways back, 50% of our students went on to 2- and 4-year programs. Only 50%. Not everyone goes college ready. They don't go to college. So we also had 1% to 2% went military. Then what do you do with the rest? How are we preparing them? How are we giving the skill set so when they walk across the stage, they take that diploma and they stand out in front of the people that they're going to compete with for jobs? And so those are the things that when we look at it, and when you look at this slide, you see Willowville doing a podcast. 2017, we were not doing podcasts at the high school level. Okay? So you can see the progression of how we have moved as a district. We've pushed things down. We've given our students opportunities to be able to be successful as they move forward. Success doesn't happen grades 9 through 12. Success starts back preschool, kindergarten, being prepared to be able to get to the skill sets that you need when you get to 9, 10, 11, and 12. And so when you look at that and you see the increase from, we were about 89.6 in 2019 to almost, 94 now. Those are hard numbers to move. I can tell you that from being a high school principal for 20 years. Moving those numbers are very, very difficult. And to be able to do that while increasing expectations is very, very difficult to do. And we've done that through a lot of hard work, through teaching and learning, through our staff, through our administrators, and obviously our students as well. And they're not happy at 94. You want 100%. You want 100%, and that will always be the goal, that every student that walks in will walk across the stage.
All right, my turn.
That was probably too long.
Well done,
again.
Randy. Well done, thank you. So Natasha referenced our strategic plan, which really outlines goals to take us to 2030 and beyond. And with our strategic goal, there's the one overarching goal, and then we have sort of 3 strategic themes, and each of the strategic themes have a goal. And so I'm going to talk to you today about our strategic theme related to pathways and performance. And so the goal regarding or related to pathways and performance is that every student will have access to rigorous curriculum and a support system so that they can develop strong foundational knowledge and skills that transfer. And that word transfer is like a really critical part of that goal. We don't want students who just like learn something in the moment for the teacher on that day, and then a year later, they don't remember it. I mean, how many things, I can say, like, a lot of the things that I learned in high school, I don't remember today. And there's always going to be an element of things that you remember and forget. But ultimately, we want our core programs and practices
to really deepen learning experiences for students so that they can develop those transferable, durable skills that will take them well into the future. And so that's really at the heart of what we're after here in our strategic plan. But this strategic plan wasn't like created in a vacuum. It really was born from the work of our Citizens Advisory Commission, the CAC. And Natasha referenced that a little bit, earlier as it relates to your direction for community engagement and involvement. And the CAC really, to me, is like a hallmark representation of what can come from that community involvement and engagement. And so the CAC was tasked with kind of looking to the future and helping us think about what is the purpose and design of a modern school system, and what does our West Clermont community believe the purpose and design of a modern school system should be. It's one thing to have an idea about like nationally or internationally what people might think is important as we develop future-ready learners, but for us it was really that localized context was critical, because we wanted to ensure that our plan and our strategic plan really reflected the desires of our community and our students. And so that really was their role, to really understand our current realities and the kinds of recommendations that they wanted to bring to you as it related to the purpose and design of a modern school. So this graphic that you see here, you've seen it before, and it really was work our CAC members designed and created this graphic. And it was really meant to represent the journey that they wanted, that our community wanted for students in a modern school experience. And it really represents from preschool all the way through graduation those the types of experiences and resources and supports that we wanted to be true along a student's journey to really ensure that they were lifelong learners, and kind of like their mantra that came out of this that was that we wanted students prepared for something, not just, or prepared for anything, not just something. And so it's one thing, and Randy kind of alluded to this when he was talking about the 5 E's. We don't want students to, it's really challenging for a student when you're 14 years old. Some 14-year-olds know exactly what they want to do and come like, no matter what, that's like the thing that they're going to do. But most kids, even, high schoolers, they don't really necessarily know exactly what they want to do. And so the CAC really felt that it was critical that their educational experience in West Clermont prepared them to do anything that they desired, and that they were equipped with the skill sets and the mindsets and the academic and life skills that they could end up, like the sky would be the limit for them, and not just like a pigeonholed, like singular view of what was possible for them, because we wanted all kids to have the kinds of experiences that would really give them a competitive advantage and really prepare them for anything that their heart desired. And so that really, this work, their research, their recommendations to the board were instrumental as we work to then create our strategic plan from there. And so, we can't thank them enough for the contributions that they gave us.
Wait for the video.
Yes.
I need to do that.
All right, should have played, but let's give it a try.
While we're waiting for this to queue up, I'll just give you a little preview of what you're about to see. So Natasha referenced, and Ryan earlier said that we had one of our teachers at the middle school, Rena Ford, named as the Martha Martha Holden Jennings Foundation Teacher of the Year. And so with that recognition came money that she was then able to use that money to make investments into her classroom and her programming for students. And so this video really represents and reflects the investments that she was able to make because of her recognition and the impact that that's had on student learning. As an example of future-ready students and learning that we have going on. And if not, Larry's going to have to act it out for us if we can't get it to play
Well,
here.
I'll get it to play.
How long Rena has been teaching?
She's well
Good
into
player.
her 20, I want to say like
No, I mean, I think it is, but they.
it's close to 30. I want to say it's like 28-ish. I should know this by heart, but it's up there for sure. All in West Clermont.
Yeah. She still has that
Oh. It's-
drive and ambition.
Yeah, it's really been so amazing to see just how this, like, how she's really taken this experience and leveraged it as an opportunity to really just like ignite like a passion in herself and the students. It's just been really great to see. She was hired in '94, so.
Thank you.
Yes. So that was about right. That's almost 30 years, right?
So we'll tell us some more good news while we're waiting. And this is also middle school. Just recently, Mary Hufford and her class participated in an event at a statewide, I think it was statewide first.
Octella. Yeah.
English Language Arts Conference. And they had kind of done a passion project, I guess you could say, that related to AI. And one of their goals was to really to analyze how the state assessment works and how it's scored, and to go like really deep into what makes excellent writing. And they used AI to help them do that. And they presented at this conference to explain their process and what they learned. And then the Octella, which is the state group, was so impressed that they invited them to the national convention that happened this past weekend. So even more students then went with them and presented at a national conference what they had been learning with this teacher. And did I didn't do the assignment justice enough. Is there anything else you would add that I probably missed? Or did I do okay? I did okay, but what else would you add? Would you add anything? Yeah, this is not fluffy stuff. Like it's.
I mean, and it's to the level that like their research has involved them leveraging AI, like actually building the prompts into AI to train the AI theirself to analyze like student writing in ways that it wasn't just about like utilizing AI, but it was actually then like, you know, utilizing existing AI, but then like training it themselves to like serve a purpose.
Well, and the thing that was most impressive about them was how they presented, because they were so articulate in explaining the process that they were just blown away. And that's why they got asked to go further. And they already have on the calendar, I think this is going to be in April, there's a parent that was involved in knowing what they were doing, and they're invited to Fidelity. They're going to be going to Fidelity to meet with those leaders to continue this conversation. So it's just been amazing. Oh, now he's.
Doesn't have audio.
I think we're moving on. I think is what is what's happening. You guys know how I can sit still here. We could always come back to it if you think of something magical, but let's keep going with the. Let's keep going with where we are, and then we can circle back. Thank you, Larry. All right. Ellie, we'll pick up with you. You're still in progress and pathways.
Yes.
And
we're
we have
still
a
in
great video to
Pathways-
show you when we can.
Pathways and performance, and some of the progress that we've made within pathways and performance. And you can say that 5 times. It's like a little bit of a tongue twister. So, I mean, there are so many things that we could highlight as progress that has been made within pathways and performance. And again, that's around like every student having access to regular curriculum and support systems. So just a few things, and it's really been because of the investment that you all have made that we've been able to have some of these things become a reality. And so this year, we were able to, for the first year, we adopted last spring, you approved last spring, the use of new curriculum and instruction materials in English language arts. And that really has, your financial investment has provided access to students with rigorous instructional materials, access to students having text in hand that helps to build knowledge and skills that, try not to be like distracted by, that's okay.
Man behind the curtain.
I know, that's quite the panel there. But this English language arts curriculum has really put text in hand for students that not only helps them build like English language arts strategies, but also allows them to really build foundational knowledge and skill in music or in science and in social studies. Like one of the things that we know about literacy performance is that disciplinary literacy, their ability to read and write, not just literature, but not informational text is really critical, and that the more students develop knowledge just around those content areas, the better off that they'll be, the more successful they'll be, the more equipped they'll be to be able to write and speak and communicate and listen. And so it just really is like a game changer for our students. It's very challenging and rigorous, so much so that I think in the beginning, teachers were like, worried, like, can our students like step up to the task? And what we found is that they can, and that our teachers have really been working to develop, to strengthen their expertise to scaffold those experiences for students who maybe like just need some additional supports to help them get there. But it really is setting a high bar for all students, and that we're working to ensure that they all get there. So that has been really exciting to see, and to see like some of these pictures are actually from preschool classrooms, and so to be able to see students from preschool all the way through 12th grade really continuing to develop their love for literacy has been really exciting, and this is just the beginning. This is year one, and so we know that so many more great things are in store for us. Randy, go back.
Oh, it's
Dan, I was
yet.
just number one. So Randy mentioned a little bit the Wolf Lab. If you've all had the opportunity to go to the high school and see the transformation of the lower and upper level media centers of the high school, like just last year, you would have seen kind of a space that looked a little sad, to be honest, where it was like such potential and opportunity at the heart of our high school really being underutilized. And it has just been transformed this year, and it's because our Wolf Lab is housed there. And so this really provides an opportunity for us to put some of those things that the CAC was just like dreaming about as possibilities when they made their recommendations for you about ways to engage students in, to provide them opportunities to develop these future-ready skills. Like in just 1 year, it's happened. And students are really able to, the learning that students, like the content knowledge and the skills of students in Wolf Lab, they're not working on from different curriculum. Those like priority standards and academic skills are the same as a student who might be working in a more traditional math class or ELA class, for example. But it's the pace and the place where they're learning that allows for more personalized paths for students, where they get to have some autonomy in how they leverage their time, how they work with their peers, their teachers, etc., that really helps students develop some of those like task management skills, and they learn more about themselves as learners and what it takes for them to be successful in that learning environment. And it's really, Randy mentioned some things that can become like hallmark experiences within a building or within a district, Wolf Lab has already, in just a short period of time, become one of those. We've had districts from other parts of the state come to visit us, to learn from what we're doing. Greg, the high school principal, he's hosted principals from the other like high Ames districts to come see not just Wolf Lab, but other programs that we're building out at the high school. And so in a very short period of time, we really have accelerated opportunities for students. And again, it's really just the beginning of where we're headed. And so it's really exciting. And some of the CEC parents actually were like, wait a minute, like this was literally just a thing we were talking about, and it's happening. Like for them to see how their work and the work of the community and the goals and desires that they had for the learning experiences for our students, to then see that that wasn't just like a plan just to make a plan to say we had a plan, but it was really to be then operationalized. And so that part I think has been really rewarding for them, and obviously for our students and our staff. And so just to highlight one other example that you've heard of is our aviation program. But again, like an opportunity for students to learn through an authentic context that really can open up potential pathways for them that can lead to real employment, real skill sets, whether it's through being, like a pilot or a drone pilot's license. It really is something that our students are thriving with, and that is like giving us a competitive advantage.
It was interesting at the Partners in Education event that we had the other day. Sporties was there, and I had a chance to talk to them, and they were saying, the PR from the video that we did, as well as the one that the news station did, they're like, this has really gotten us a lot of business. Like, a lot of people are noticing us. And I said, well, a lot of people have also reached out to us. We had somebody from, was it GE, reached out to Ellie to say, okay, how can we partner? And it's just amazing in such a short amount of time. Number one, the amount of students that applied, and how positive it's kind of vibrating, like rippling out into the community. So, all right, Larry, what do you think? All right, this could be
Dan's
exciting.
only taking the 50%.
Thank you, Larry, for your persistence
Resilience.
and resiliency, all those things. You're a great Portrait graduate.
Every day at West Clermont Middle School, teachers, students, and staff.
It's not like we didn't have a dress rehearsal in here, This is not the first time.
This was fully tested.
It worked on
there, it worked on here. Hang on,
I know.
I got another option.
Usually I just call the tech guy, and he comes in, and then something, then it just starts magically
Only we
working.
could pull that one.
Yeah, my tech advice is turn it off and on.
Yes.
I do have another option if I can get to
Okay.
it. I've got the video embedded.
I think that idea at the, again, referring back to the Partners in Education event, there were several of our partners that spoke that day that talked about how having a partnership with us was also beneficial for them, that it really wasn't just a one-way. And we always talk about that. We don't want partners just for pizza and T-shirts. Like, that's not what it's about. We want real learning opportunities for our kids, and we want it to be a value to our community, not just like a burden of any sort. And they all mentioned how great being a partner has been for business.
Every day at West Clermont Middle School, teachers, students, and staff demonstrate what it means to be West Clermont strong. Nowhere is this more evident than in Justin Bush's class, where 6th graders are getting hands-on experience with 3D printers. For Justin, WC means we create, and a lot more. West Clermont Strong means different things to our community. And everyone has a West Clermont Strong story. Let's take a closer look at one of those stories. Ashton Heinzman was one of the first students to take the 3D printing course, encouraged by his father who works with 3D printers at a local business.
I thought about them like when I first came in. My dad, I knew about them. It was one of the courses my dad picked because he also has one that we would sometimes use for printing stuff, but I was just excited to make stuff. Well, he works at Bilstein Shocks, just all sorts of different stuff. If like he needs something to make this one work, he'll print that. I don't know. He's just shown me them when they're done and stuff. Yesterday he brought home something. I don't even know what it was, but it was a bunch of it was on a ring and a bunch of metal pieces that he designed in Fusion, and then he just took them into like a metal thing and just made them somehow. So this was an ice tray that we watched a YouTube series for, and then so this was an ice tray, and then we designed cookie cutters. And then so one of the teachers here, she has a softball team, and she asked us to design little softballs with names on them. So this is one of the example ones that Mr. Bush gave us. And I think the hardest thing for us was probably getting this stitching. But after a while, we got it right. And then they're little like boats. I think it's like the first thing that you make when you get one, just to make sure everything prints right.
For Zoe Russo, the 3D printing class appealed to her creative side, but it has also taught her the power of persistence.
I thought it would be really fun getting to like design things. I love arts and crafts, and I thought it would just be really fun. We made keychains, cookie cutters, ice cube trays, and just like a bunch of different like cool gadgets. I've learned just to be very creative in whatever I do, and just to like go with my gut, and then like if something doesn't work, you can keep trying.
Titus Carson is one of the 3D printing pioneers at West Clermont Middle School.
My name is Titus Carson. I am in 6th grade, and I was one of the first to use the 3D printers to make stuff. I wanted to take that class because it sounded engaging and creative to me.
For Justin Bush, the 3D printing class that he co-teaches with Madison Allen is about more than just making things. Their students are reinforcing basic academic skills and applying them in new ways that will prepare them for the future.
The technology is the big part on bringing the 3D printers, as well as kind of that problem solving, the perseverance, just kind of getting the students to be able to work on their own, be able to solve problems, and then kind of that technology end of the spectrum. 3D printing and CAD design is going up. It's a technology part of the sector that is important. So there's companies that are using 3D printers. There's Boeing, GE, Ford, Nike actually just came out with a shoe that's 3D printed. That's really cool. And then you can even go as far as saying the construction end of the spectrum. There's houses that are being 3D printed. So it's something that if we are as a society moving into more technology, it's definitely something that is important for our students to learn moving forward. We want them to have knowledge of things outside of the classroom. Yes, STEM classes and 3D printers and CAD programs use math. So technically, we are a math program. We are a science program, but we want students to be able to have a successful life outside of the building and outside of school. So if we can prepare them for when they graduate, if they are aware of a CAD program, if they're aware of an engineering classes or architecture, then when they get into society or when they get into college, they're going to already have a step up. They're going to have a leg up above everybody else.
Madison Allen, who co-teaches the course with Justin Bush, believes their students take something more than 3D printing skills from the class.
Yeah, I think the biggest skill they take away from this class is resiliency. 3D printing is really complex. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of failure. And they kind of have to work through that. It's a little frustrating at first when you're making these designs and you kind of have a vision of what it's going to look like and it doesn't go the way you think it will. Or you print it and it doesn't print the way you anticipated. And whether or not it's 3D printing, they have to learn to look at that failure as an opportunity to try again. So instead of saying, it didn't work, it's not worth me doing anymore, you're saying it didn't work and now I'm one step closer to succeeding. And I think that is the beauty of the 3D printing class. It's not about the 3D printing, it's about the resiliency that they take away. And then the other one I would say is collaboration. You know, you have these kids who are going to each other to ask questions before they come to the teacher to ask for help. So they're helping each other, they're guiding each other, and they're taking these leadership roles without even realizing that they're taking leadership roles. It's really cool.
So, how do 3D printers actually work? Titus Carson walks us through the process.
These are the 3D printers. In these 4 chambers is where you put your filament. So, and the way this works is the filament is put into the machine and it's melted onto the base plate where it starts going layer by layer being created. Over here. Great demonstration. It can take minutes to hours to days to weeks, maybe a month or 2.
What's possible at West Clermont with 3D printers and other courses that further develop basic academic skills and apply them to the real world that our kids will be venturing into?
Honestly, we've been able to do so much this year. It's been absolutely fantastic. I would say ideally in the next couple of years, we would be able to get some more printers and be able to have a dedicated makerspace in the building, whether that's in the library or in a classroom, that we have a significant quantity of printers, that we have big actual computers rather than laptops, because laptops with the Chromebooks are a little bit slow, they're a little bit laggy. So actual dedicated desktops that we're able to use with those, and then able to bring students in, but not necessarily that learning facilitated by teachers, whether that's Miss Allen or myself, but more facilitated by them, more kind of that Montessori style base where they come in, they do the design, and then they print right off the bat so that they can get that direct feedback of what works and what doesn't.
At West Clermont Middle School, we're preparing our kids for a future where anything goes, where the skills they learn here can influence their success throughout life. What's your WC Strong story?
Thank you, Larry. And clearly I misspoke. I think I mixed every middle school story that I've heard in the last 3 weeks into one story.
And she did buy 3D printers, so I think that's where.
Okay, that's where it's coming from. Well, there's just so many good things going on there, and the teachers are on fire, so they did a great job with that.
So while we're getting set back up here, that was one of the areas that we wanted to highlight were the electives at the middle school. We've really been working, as we've been building out some new programs and experiences at the high school level, we're really wanting to work backwards so that we can ensure we're not just waiting until high school to give students opportunities to explore and to develop interests and to participate in programs that really help them to just put some of those skills to life that you heard Justin talking about. And so that's like the video is one example of a middle school elective that we've created to really allow students that opportunity to really roll up their sleeves and to learn by doing. Another area of progress that we've made in Pathways and Performance, again, in that goal statement, it talks about a support system that we want to have in place for all students. And so this year, it's really been over the last few years, and it started with kind of a community survey that we partnered with an organization called Mindpiece to help us really understand from a parent's perspective, from a community perspective, and from a student experience perspective, what their needs were as it related to mental health supports. And so as a result of the outcome of that survey, plus looking at what we thought, what they thought that it might mean for the kinds of supports that we needed to have in place, we've partnered to bring therapists to all of our schools across the district at the elementary, middle, and high school level. And that partnership comes through NECO, through Best Point, and existing partnerships that we had with Child Focus. And so we are really, we're really pleased with how far we've been able to come in that area, really to ensure that all students, whether it's in a short-term kind of way or in a longer-term kind of way, have access to school-based mental health supports. so that we can remove any barriers to them being able to fully participate and engage and learning. And so that really, and that's really been done at no cost to the district, that's all done through partnerships with these organizations and agencies that allow us to provide that service without having to put taxpayer dollars into that. And so that's really something that we're really very proud of as progress that we've made in this area. And then we've talked a little bit about WC Your Future. Obviously, the PI event was kind of a way to showcase just how far in a very short period of time we've been able to exponentially increase the opportunities for students to really participate in learning that goes beyond the wall of the classrooms through partnerships with various organizations and companies, et cetera. And, you know, part of the hallmark of that like PI event, and I think Natasha referenced this a little bit earlier, was that this is a mutually beneficial relationship that companies are able, not just from a financial standpoint, surely also from a financial standpoint, they're able to benefit, and clearly our students have an opportunity to have an authentic learning experience, a way to deepen their learning. And so we've really been able to move beyond just you know, asking like for a handout from organizations. Sure, we're happy to accept donations, but really what we're looking for is ways to partner to enhance the learning experiences that we're able to provide students. So that before students graduate, they've had the opportunity to dabble in several different experiences to really help them develop a more well-rounded understanding of the things that they have an interest in, the ways that they, you know, they like to learn, so that they can really kind of be able to just have a better idea of what they're interested in pursuing post-graduation. Okay, so if you recall, we have kind of established some district academic benchmarks. This is like not a comprehensive view of all of our academic measures. Clearly, we have the state report card that we share, you know, information with you about that each year. This is really just meant to kind of hit some of the highlights of those like benchmark. If you think about like, you know, for my own children, when you go to the doctor and they kind of have like benchmarks, you know, when you're 1 year old, or when you're, you know, you should be doing these kinds of things by that age, or when you're, you know, 12 years old or whatever, and it's kind of like growth and development chart. These are the same kind of like benchmarks that we've established as a system that kind of give us an indication of like how well we're doing, and areas that we'll want to continue to focus on and refine over time. So one of those is really, and the kindergarten readiness is more of just an indication of like how kids come to us, because clearly how they come to us impacts their readiness for being able to engage successfully in school. And so this, for 2024, 58%-ish of students were considered off track. And so that's like, whew, that's like already we're starting with like some challenges in place. It's a little less than before, so like that's the good news. It was like 62.25%, so like, all right, we're getting a little better, but when almost 60% of your students are coming in considered off track, like we know we have an uphill like battle to climb, you know, from the get-go. And, you know, we know all research, like any research article that you read, shows that students who start off track are more likely to end off track without significant and extensive interventions and supports. And so that's really what we're working to have be true from the very beginning, because it's like necessary for us to. And so if you think about like on the state report card, one of the measures on the state report card is a K-3 literacy measure. And half of that measure is looking at the students who are off track 1 year and on track like the following year. So like off track in the fall of kindergarten to like off track in the fall of first grade. And if you don't even have enough students off track in kindergarten, you don't even like have to have that measure on your report card. And so for us, many districts, that's like what they're working with, where it's like, they came into kindergarten on track, and so we just like keep them on track. Where for us, we have so many coming in off track that we're starting, like behind, the starting line. And so it just means, that's not an excuse for us, it just means we have to work like extra hard and pull out all of the stops, in whatever way that we can. The other thing I'll just say, and it's more difficult to measure in this way, but not only are we seeing students like coming in off track, but like their needs are more significant than before. And, students who are coming to us like with no prior schooling experience, who just have challenges being able to regulate their behavior. And so we know that that we're starting further behind, and the conditions that can allow them to successfully engage in learning from the beginning aren't also, like, they're also challenges with that. And so, we've been able to really put more effort and energy into, kindergarten and first grade to try to help remediate some of that. But it's been a challenge for us. So, one of those like measures that we look at as a benchmark is looking at third grade literacy and math, and we're not going to be satisfied until we're like 80+% and beyond for all students. And so you can see in both areas, like we made progress in English language arts and in math as it relates to third grade. And again, these are district averages, so we have some buildings that are higher than this, and some, that are lower than this. So we've made progress. It's not exactly still where we want to be, but we keep moving in that right direction. For two other grade level benchmarks are 5th and 8th grade. Again, looking at literacy and in math. So we made progress in literacy in 5th grade, and we took a slight step back in math. And so we've been really working to unpack that, to understand a little bit about like what took place there. But again, those like exceed the state averages, just not still where we want to be. And then the same thing as it relates to 8th grade. Took a step forward in math and a step back in English language arts. I think one of the hypothesis that we had in place for 8th grade literacy was really around access to instructional materials on grade level materials. And so with those like in place now, we're really looking for that to continue to move in the right direction.
Ellie, can I just ask a question? How many years back do you guys keep your data? Like, so this is 23, 24. Do you have like 22 and 21?
I do, yeah. Yeah, and yes, and we could get that for you. The one thing I'll say is that there have been like dips or years where it was like a different assessment, and then with COVID there was like a hiatus where there wasn't data, and so there are.
But this version of this test started like in 2014, was it?
Oh, really?
No, because then there was like park assessments and.
Okay, I was thinking that was 2014. So would that be more like 16?
I think we have it. I think I could like readily get my hands on probably till 17.
Okay, I was just kind of curious.
Well, but why it's
Yeah.
important and why I want to make this point is that that's when the test changed. And the first thing is that the test changed to computers. Everybody had to have a computer to have this. And so what was true in West Clermont until 2020 is that you could get a computer on a Tuesday, or you could, schedule the lab or the mobile lab or whatever, but you didn't have it at your fingertips all the time. And so we were competing against kids who in third grade were typing every day of the week versus if a teacher like checked out a lab. So that's number one, and just being ready to take that assessment. Number two, during all this time from 2017 until 2021, there was no new curriculum. So the curriculum that we had to match the standards and the new rigor of this assessment were very lagged behind. And so that's what we've been bringing up to speed. So when she says the 8th graders haven't been reading things at 8th grade level, she means it, because they haven't had materials that were at that 8th grade level with the rigor that was expected from these standards. And so,
or the 7th or the 6th or the 5th.
Well, yes. And so again, we don't want to sit here and make excuses, but there's real reasons why every move we're making is to like level that playing field and help them be more competitive by putting the tools and the resources in their hands. And just the little bit that we've been able to do has shown remarkable results. And so that's the thing that is really the takeaway is given a few resources that are not 10 years behind with the professional development that goes with it, we can quickly close gaps. And
Yeah,
that's
and
what
I
I've
will
done.
say, like, these aren't comparing the same cohorts of students. So it's like the group of students in 23 who took the assessment are clearly, they've moved on to the next grade in 24 and so on. And so that also just is.
Because it could mean that group of kids as seventh graders could have made huge gains.
Yes.
We're just comparing
Yeah.
eighth graders to
Yeah,
eighth
and so
graders.
that
we
is
look at all
actually
that.
the case when you look at cohorts moving across the system. Yeah, because like, for example, last year, on the state report card, which looked at all of our state tested grade levels and subject areas, we had the highest performance index that we've ever had. And our value added, which is that growth for students year over year, was top 11% in the state. And so, you know, it's just important to recognize like what we're looking at and what we're not looking at as we review this. So Randy referenced this like earlier, but another area that our research tells us is like the percentage of students who come into high school having already earned high school credit really increases the likelihood that they will graduate on time. And so that's part of the reason why we've been looking at building experiences for students even before they get to high school. You know, when you look at middle school, so much of middle school comes back to student engagement and comes back to student motivation. There's so much research on motivation in the middle school grades. That's the time where they really can they can really shine or they can really shut down. And so we've been looking for ways to really give kids hope for their future and to believe that they've like got a shot at this, even if they like themselves don't yet believe that they do. And so looking at opportunities for students to earn high school credit prior to high school, you know, through our like foreign language program, our world language program, through algebra, et cetera. We're looking at other ways to be able to do that. And so this year, in 24, over 90% of so 90% of our freshmen had 5 or more credits by the end of 24. And so that meant that they are on track to graduate because like by the end of their freshman year, we want them to have successfully completed 5 credits. That will put them on track to earn 20 credits, which is our graduation requirement. So some of those students earned those in middle school, and then others earned all 5 in high school, but we're looking for ways to ensure that by the end of their freshman year, they remain on track for graduation. And you can see here, and this hasn't yet been like reported on a report card yet because high school graduation is always in arrears on the report card. And so our graduating class of 24, their graduation percentage was 94%. And we know that that's been something that was a real priority of our board. It's been clearly a priority of ours as well to really prioritize programs and practices that can help all students be able to walk across the stage at graduation. And so we're really proud. And as Randy said, that's not an easy number to move. It really takes knowing every student's story, every student's strength, and every student's need, and building responsive plans. Because we all know not all students are created equally, and it really takes understanding those unique challenges to help move that needle. And so we're really proud of our high school for their efforts.
Well, and there's a little asterisk I would add to this chart. If you look at 2020, 21, and I think even 22, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there were different requirements for graduation because the state was trying to give some grace to the challenges that the kids had faced. So if you really, if you wipe those 3 years away where the requirements were is COVID related and they were loosened, you see a big change from 84.4 in a normal 2019 to a 2024 normal 24. So that's really
and not only were they looser there, but they've it wasn't like they just went back to the same old requirements, but they also like ramped them up.
ramped 'em
And
up.
Tammy, like you are very familiar with that, and so it really, it was kind of like a double challenge for us to like get back to where we were prior, but then to also, like, the expectations are just higher for all students, and so it really is something we're really proud of.
Credits are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
It really
The
is.
credits, the other piece of that is how it correlates with opportunities for kids, is we always talked about getting between 6 to 8 to 10 credits. Well, 6 to 8 credits in those first 2 years, because that opens your doorway to go to the Oaks, if that's something that you want to do. When we first came in, we found that many students didn't have the opportunity to even apply to the Oaks because they didn't get a good start. They didn't have those 5 credits. They didn't get to those 8 credits in those first 2 years of high school, which closed the door for them. And so that is an amazing feat, because if I remember back, we were probably around 50%. And
Yeah.
so to get to that level, 90%, they've done amazing work to get there.
okay. Student attendance, as we all know, this has been a challenge across the entire state. I mean, there are task forces at the state level, and we've really been like working hard to combat this. You know, we were feeling really pretty good about how things were, and then like, oh, flu season is upon us. So, you know, we're working to try to get at the heart and at the root of what it is that is like the greatest challenge, the greatest barrier to students being able to come to school. And that also is not an easy feat. We know that, you know, if there are 10 different students, there are 10 different factors that are really contributing to this. And so we have, you know, our buildings have been working to really peel back the layers of the onion to understand what those factors are, so that we can provide supports to wrap around those students and their families in ways that really do address their barriers for regular student attendance. And so, you know, this is like still a work in progress, but you know, but we're working really hard at getting to that 95% attendance rate. You'll see if you've been in any of our buildings, many of our buildings have set individual and like entire grade level or course or pack level attendance goals. And so one of the things that we like, you know, are hypothesizing that like positive peer pressure is a good thing. If students feel welcomed and missed when they're not at school by their peers, that they're more likely to come to school if they feel like there's, you know, something really meaningful that they're missing out on, even if it's just those like peer-to-peer relationships. And so that's been, you know, a positive, a real like synergizing kind of action step that we've taken across the district this year. And then school discipline, we know that that discipline and behavior is correlated with student achievement, and so we've been really working hard to increase the numbers of students who are able to you know, successfully participate in school without needing disciplinary action being taken. And so you can note, you know, from 71% to 86, almost 87% of students who didn't have a disciplinary action in place. That's some pretty significant progress in that year's time. So to kind of like take this home here, as part of our strategic plan, we're wanting the brand that we've sort of established to represent kind of future-ready students and future-ready learning environments. It is really creating like WCX classrooms, where like the X kind of represents like exponential change, and the kind of like personalization and student-centered kind of deep learning experiences that we want for all kids. And we've shown you again tonight some like examples of that already kind of put into place, but we're wanting to see this happen at scale across all of our learning environments and in every classroom across the district. And so you'll continue to hear more about WCX, like future-ready classrooms and schools, but this really, is, like I said, is just the beginning of where we're headed.
Okay, my turn. One of the things that we want to talk about is the people. We talked, and how are the team of educators, the family and community partners are partnering together to help support our students and serve our students. Before we dive into more about the people, we want to really just take a look at the population which we serve, right? So this is the current snapshot of the population we serve, and we can say that we're currently serving a diverse population. We appreciate diversity because, as Randy and Ellie have talked about, preparing kids to go out into the world, and our world is a diverse world. So we are becoming more diverse, and I want to talk about that in more of a snapshot. In order to understand that, we need to look at prior trend data, historical trend data. So this slide is a snapshot of that historical trend data. I'm going to go into pretty much each one individually, but what I wanted you to take away from this slide is that ultimately, as a district, we're seeing this overall, we're getting more diverse. All right, so we're going to each one individually. All right, so the first one is the ethnicity of a student is marked by the parent when they register their child. And so if you look at fiscal year, this is a 14-year look back through this is from the district profile of the CUP report. You guys have heard that before. It's a look back from 09-010, which is fiscal year 10, to 23-24, which is fiscal year 24. We're going to talk about a couple sets of data really quick. One of this, I was playing with this thinking, how's the best way to describe this? If I had 5 apples and I got 5 more apples, I'd have 10 apples, right? The difference is 5 more apples, but I doubled the amount of apples I have. That's a 100% increase. So although I had 5 more apples, I really increased my apples by 100%. So does that make sense? Okay, so when you look at this and you think about in fiscal year 09, we had our district we had a 5.69% of total diversity, total ethnic diversity. And then by fiscal year 24, we moved that up to 16.72%. So the difference of that is 11%, but that's almost a 200% increase in the diversity of our district. So we went from having a district that was only about 5.6% to now 16.7% diverse ethnicity and race. Does that make sense? One of the takeaways, if you look at the slide too, is if you look at it, you're going to see multiple subgroups increasing. It isn't just in one subgroup. Each color represents a different subgroup. And for the most part, as you look across from left to right, you're seeing those colored bars get bigger and bigger. So it's not just one area in multiple subgroups, sub-ethnic groups. All right. Next is the percent of students in poverty. Students in poverty is identified based on their free and reduced lunch application. So students who fall in poverty are typically need additional resources and support to help them be successful in school. If you have you look at where it has the dip quick, if you look at fiscal year 20 to 22, 23, that was our COVID year. The government wasn't requiring parents to turn in a free and reduced lunch form that they were feeding everybody during that time. So it was, there's no incentive to fill out the form. That's why it dips. We didn't all of a sudden go down to 17.5. So if you look at it as a trajectory trend, we went from basically 29% poverty to 46% poverty. That is almost a 60% growth in poverty in our area.
That year almost needs to be like a dotted line.
Yes, like a dot across the
Like a
top,
shadow.
like a chasm. Yes, definitely. All right. The next one is students limited English. We also call that English language learners, or ELLs. You may have heard that before. These are students whose first language is not English, and in fact, it takes additional resources and support to help them learn academics as well as learn English while they're here. In fiscal year 10, we was at 1.42%, and then that went to 2.65% in fiscal year 24. It's a difference of 1.25%, but that's actually, if you look at it, we grew 86.6 percentage points in serving our population. So that's significant when you look at the different languages that are coming into our district where we're having to serve them. Okay. The next one is students with disability. So this is identified with students by the number of students that have an IEP or individual education plan. These students take additional resources and support as we try to help fill these holes and help support them with their education. Fiscal year 10, that was at 22.43. That grew in 12.43 to 16.14. So that's a 3.7 difference, but if you think about it, and you've heard us say this before in presentations, that's about a 30% increase in a special needs population. And this, keep in mind, is just the number of IEPs. This does not indicate, it doesn't reflect the increase that we're seeing in the intensity of the needs of those students that are holding IEPs. So we're seeing that intensity as well. All right. So now we're going to jump into enrollment. You've seen this slide before, but we need to review it again. The black line there is the predicted enrollment of students that will be inhabiting dwellings that already exist. Houses, apartments, condos, duplexes. You can see there's minimal gain, but it's low in the next 5 years. Now, when you add in students that we expect to move in and occupy the new dwellings that are being built, that number skyrockets. So we're talking 1,300 plus by 2030 and 1,600 plus by 2034. So this predicted enrollment is really driven by the amount of increase is driven by the new dwellings that are being built and the anticipation of people occupying those dwellings. Make sense? All right, so let's talk about some of the people, right? Because of these kids, we're serving a diverse population. We're having more show up. One of the things that I wanted to say before we start this slide too was just knowing this move, the increase, we have to really be mindful of how we plan for classroom space and facilities usage, because as we grow in population, that's going to be an area where we need to really address. I'm not going to cover Michelle and Heidi again. I think we celebrated them 2 or 3 times, but we're really excited about that as well. But I want to jump to the Gallup. We've given the Gallup for the last 3 years. The Gallup is this national, it's a nationally recognized survey that measures engagement in the workplace. And so one of the things that we really celebrated was when we looked at where we compared to the nation, so they do nations, and we can compare to that, we are 13 percentage points higher than the national average for teachers. And what that tells us is engaged staff members are more productive in their work, and which results in retention and better support for students. So our teachers are more engaged in the work and are more engaged in helping our students be successful. So that says a lot about our teachers and where we're at with that. On the far right, it's a picture of Take Care of Your Selfie 2. We had Take Care of Your Selfie 1 last year. This is a picture of the bottom there. They just, I think, finished a workout, Dan, in the gym at the high school. Staff wellness, again, is being able to take care of yourself both physically and mentally in the role that we serve it's paramount for teachers to be healthy and engage with students. If they're healthier mentally and physically, they tend to show up, be in attendance, and then they engage in the students. So some of the things that, I just put a couple lists here, they did wellness fair, they've done monthly newsletters, wellness challenges, community partnerships, and we provide wellness support. So that, Dan can attest to, has been a big kickoff over the last 2 or 3 years in our district.
Substantial.
Yeah, teachers are loving it. Before we go to the next slide, one of the reasons I bring up engagement and retention is because we know staff shortages. We've talked about that. Staff shortages are occurring. Individuals aren't going into the teaching profession at rates in which they're coming out. We know that we've already had 11 of our teachers announce their retirement at the end of this year. We polled our staff. In the next 5 years, we expect another almost 12.8% to retire. The next 10 years, that rises up to 27%. So when we can engage our staff, when we can support our staff, when we can help our staff be healthier, stronger, and mindful and present, they tend to stay longer, they tend to retain they tend to stay with us, and they tend to be focused and love education. So we're always keeping a mind's eye on what is down the road and how can we continue to support our kids 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Go back one. This is my slide. No apples or math on this one. So again, with people, we talk about stakeholder engagement. And as you know, we have a very comprehensive communication plan in this district, and we are very transparent. We do a lot in the areas of communication. We were doing surveys before they were annoying, right? Back in 2018, we started with Thought Exchange. We wanted feedback from our community. We wanted feedback from our parents. We wanted feedback from our staff. A couple of things that we've done with the Citizens Advisory Commission as well. If you remember back, we looked at start time at the middle school, and that's not something that's been forgotten. That was something that was talked about during the transportation proposals. It will be continually talked about during the transportation proposals. I'm not going to make any promises on what that will be, but we are going to continually push our vendors to give us the best options that we possibly can. And that's something that I just wanted to say because, you know, we did this and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's on our minds every day. It's on our minds from teaching and learning. It's on our minds from an operations standpoint, and we know that that's something that we want to continue. As we moved into the master facility plan, we started that 2-3 years ago. We started with tours. We started with getting a group together that were leaders that came and presented to you on the master facility plan, and that's as we move into May is very, very important as we continue that. And that was a lot of hard work, both from the CAC as well as the CAT, and has given us a vision, has given us an opportunity to move forward so that we can continue to see the things that we've seen that Ellie had talked about. We don't want to spend money on roofs that are 50, 60 years old. We'd rather buy 3D printers. We'd rather be able to put money into things that are going to be utilized in the classroom. So as we looked at the stakeholders, we brought those in through the CAT, through the CAC. On the next slide, you're going to see our Business Advisory Council, our safety meetings. I'll talk a little bit more about that because we have one tomorrow. But we did, our BAC was recognized. We continue working with that. Our PTO and boosters, our key communicators group, we meet with quarterly as well to really put them in leadership roles and give us, they're a hard-working group of people, and they are very, very involved in each of the different schools that we have, and they work very, very hard for our students. And I think that those people should be recognized as well. Also, our Whole Learner Network. You know, we had a back-to-school bash, which was very, very successful. Eric Duell, this is Eric Duell's realm where he works, and does a very, very good job with that. And those continually look for resources. Those continually look to help our students across the board. We've talked about the Partners in Education celebration. I gave you the list of the organizations that were represented and where it started to where it is today. Tracy is here, I think. Tracy deserves a great deal of credit because as we looked at those that were the RSV, when they were coming in, and we were getting who was coming, and we were down in the low hundreds, and which was great, but she was able to get out and get the word out. And we had over 275 registered to come. Don't know the exact total that showed up, but we know that they ate a lot of food, and thank those vendors that supported us for that. But it was a great event. It really was. And when you have that many people in a room talking about what's best for kids, where can you go wrong? And so I think it will open up many different pathways, many different doors as we move forward, and we really celebrate what our students are doing with these organizations and what the experiences they're getting, the experientships, the internships, all the different opportunities that our students are getting, and building those relationships with our partners. That list is comprehensive. That was not here a few years ago. And so a lot of credit goes to the people that were involved in that, and I can't express what an amazing event that was as well. And so those are all the things that as we look at stakeholder involvement, stakeholder, we obviously are very transparent. We want to let people know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And so it's very important. We have a lot of hardworking community members, parents, even members that don't have kids are coming to these meetings and to our town halls. And as you know, our town halls, we continue monthly working with that to get the word out. And so I think it's just very, very important, the stakeholder engagement piece and the people piece with that. We continually move in the right direction.
I think when we look at the vision for our future for the modern educator workforce, we started with Portrait of a Graduate for our students. And then we went to what do our teachers need to have to be able to help our students live that Portrait of a Graduate. And then what do our educators need, our administrators need to have. And that born the Portrait of an Educator and Portrait of a Leader. And those things are those dispositions and attributes that we need to live as teachers and we need to live as administrators in order to create an environment where our students can become successful in what they do and within that Portrait of a Graduate profile. And we're starting to see those results now when we look at the different types of data that Ellie and Randy talked about. So as we continue to go forward, we design interview questions, we design ways of work. Like when we make a decision about something, we think, how does it fit into these portraits? So that we know that we're living what we believe and what we preach. And that ultimately helps impact kids. Wellness is always going to be a thing that we need to do. Work-life balance is always going to be something that we're talking about in there. And we're partnering with organizations like Arizona State to really look at what's this next gen or this next education workforce going to look like. Because how we've done it the last 60 years is not going to be what we can do the next 60. Education is going to have to evolve. And one of the things that we want to be is on the front end of that evolution. The bottom line is we will continue to evolve as a district in what we do, how we behave, and how we deliver instruction for our kids. That's the only way to help them be as successful as they possibly can be.
The next is modern learning environment. I think we've talked about this. We've gone through the master facility plan. We've been very transparent in letting people know that not every address gets the same opportunities here. I think we got to continue that. I think we have to create the urgency because we want our students to have the same opportunities regardless of where they live in the district. And I can't just overemphasize that in the urgency that we have right now, because all the things that we saw tonight in the academic world, we do not want to impact that because of operational expenses that are going to happen. And that could be anywhere from if we have to add modulars, roofs, asphalt, electrical, HVAC, in these older buildings, and that's what's going to happen. If we continue with the buildings that we have, we know that those are coming. We'll do the best that we can. We'll be the most fiscally responsible that we can, but we know that those are going to be expenses as we move forward. And we want to move forward with the ballot issue. We want to move forward with creating the modern learning environment so that all schools, all students get the same opportunity. I think it's just really important as we continually move forward. And as you look at the next thing, through our surveys, through all the feedback, through our stakeholders, we know that we want to, number one, create a safe learning environment. Our students feel safe, our parents feel safe, and we want to continue with that. And that will always be a priority as we move forward, regardless of if we have new buildings, old buildings. Safety will always be at the top of the list for our students. We continue to have our quarterly meetings. We have very good turnout from our first responders at the meetings. We work through tabletop exercises. We work through incidents that may have occurred in one building, so all buildings get the same opportunity to see how we respond to different situations, and so that they are prepared for when they may have something that would come up in their particular building. So we will continually focus on safety as we move forward, regardless of what building it is. We know that's going to be our top priority.
Okay, so we've been sitting for an hour and 40 minutes, so you know I'm going to have to make you stand up at least for 30 seconds and stretch just a little bit, if that's okay.
It's part of the wellness.
Do that.
But maybe he's,
Exercise here. They brought up wellness a couple times, so we just need to do that.
Those little things underneath the table that you.
You pedal?
Yeah.
Pedal.
well, it's still fiscal minutes, so it won't be long, right?
And we're gonna wait for Mrs. Spencer to come back too, so if that's all right. I hope you don't mind me doing this, but it is.
No, actually, it's brilliant.
I do the workout routine with you. Well, I do that, but it's all right. We can put the instant hormones on to do it. Do you get that notice to stand up and move?
Well, it notified me that, yeah, you did it, you stood up.
So as Tammy gets back her stuff. Oh, really? That's good, right? There we go. Good. Thanks for doing that, so. Thank you.
Agreed.
Throwing me, you're never.
So, so we're about halfway through now. So I think it's about two-thirds way through. So, just before I really get into the finances, one of the things I want to talk about is what superintendent, and really connect some dots, what the superintendent talked about up front, and she talked about the 4 Ps, right? People, program, the physical facilities, and the partnerships. And between David, Ellie, and Randy, those 3 things were talked about. The umbrella over the people, the program, and the physical facilities is the partnerships that we have with our staff, with our community, with the board, with our vendors, with all those different stakeholders that are out there. And in that same vein, we have a partnership on the fiscal side too with it. To go back and the title of this slide is Rerouting the WC Fiscal Path, and that really kind of started prior to 2020, prior to that levy being passed in May of 2020, right during, the onslaught of COVID with that. And if we looked at prior to that levy, we were in fiscal distress. There was deficits projected within the next year coming forward. There had to have been plans that had been, the State Department of Education and the Auditor's Office sends letters to the superintendent and treasurer, copies of the board that says, hey, what's your plan to get out of this distress to do that as you go forward? One of the things too that I think was noted, and maybe the mindset didn't change immediately, was this notion of being lean. Back prior to the levy passing, and even for the next year, the district was spending in the lowest 3 to 5% within the state. And to really grasp what that means, you really have to quantify the dollar difference between what we were spending per student and what the state average was in similar school districts, and that was significant. We're blessed to the fact that the community understood the situation that the district was in. The levy was passed in May of 2020. At the same time, and really prior to that levy passing, there were commitments made that we would, with those levy proceeds, continue the services that existed, and that we would not come back to the local community unless there was some catastrophe that happened, that we would not come back until 2024 to do that. That commitment was made, okay? The reason it was made, quite frankly, is because this district is at the 20 mil floor. This district does get increased revenue when the reappraisal occurs. It occurred in 2020. There was additional revenue. It occurred in 2023 for initial collection in 2024. We don't hide that. We recognize it. We understand that is a cost from for the taxpayers to the school district to do that. One of the things that I will try and connect with, though, is that not just was additional funds for the reappraisal, it was also for the COVID relief money, $14 million that we received from 2021 through 2024, kind of spent that evenly. Two important things about that. A is when that money came, because we listened to the community prior to that and to our stakeholders prior to that, we knew what we needed. Those items that we could spend that money on were already identified. If you look at the green column over, and what we did with that, it was really about, and the word's highlighted 3 times, it's really, or twice, it's really about investing in the people, in the program, plant and facilities, and in our partnerships. And when you think about the partnerships, it's that constant communication and engagement throughout the community that we have. So that period from beginning in fiscal year 2021 through the end of last year, 2024, that's when the COVID money was spent. That's when the investments were made. The superintendent and myself, I can remember doing, I don't know how many different Zoom meetings with staff and others, and saying 2 important things. With these additional funds, if it is ongoing money and it's sustainable money, then we can have sustainable expenses. If it is one-time only money, like the $14 million COVID, okay, it's one-time only expenses to do it, or one-time only investments to do that. One of the things that came out very well, led by the superintendent, these 3 people, and the other cabinet, is they abided by that, okay? And we heard the superintendent talk in the beginning. The desire wasn't to go back to where we were. The desire was to come out better to where we were. And if you think about it, there's 2 things that, and everything they talked about were said. And I know I am talking about finances, by the way, okay? This is finances. They talked about progress and they talked about momentum, okay? In order to do those things, we have to fund that, and we have to fund that through investments to do it. Where are we today and how do we go forward, okay? 2 things that within the last 3 months have become a little bit alarming to me. One is, we knew, and more than 3 months on this one, we knew that there is property tax reform that is out there. We know that, we recognize that. Our school district is probably all the different variables that people talk about. We own a lot of those, okay? Primary one is the 20 mil floor. But we also recognize that when you put together our funding mechanism of local property taxes and state funding, they go hand in hand. If you try and change one, it affects the other. If you try and change the fair school funding formula or don't abide by the rules, it affects local because it drives more pressure on local. If you drive property tax reform, it's going to affect the balance with the state funding altogether. Those things are important, and I'll tell you in a minute why that's alarming to do that. But our fiscal path as we look forward really has to focus on those 2 things, okay, as we do it. We're guided by the program expenses that we have. We've been able to come out of COVID without, quote unquote, falling off a cliff and being in financial trouble. We know that there is an enrollment growth that's expected. One of the things that I will tell you to connect with our finances is the charts that David showed. Every one of those charts connect to what we call, on the state funding side, categorical funding, okay? Because of the way the state funding exists, all that growth is within the formula, and we are capped. So although the diversity grew by 200%, although the children with disability doubled, or
About 30%.
okay, 33%, okay, although the English language learners jumped up, okay. In the formula, it calculates that we should get more funding, but we didn't get any over that time period, okay. We are still at 2019 levels of funding from the state, okay. What does that mean? That means there's added pressure on our other major source of revenue, which is local property taxes, okay. That's the story with that, okay? Those were important slides to know. The importance that All he was talking about is the progress that we made because the investments that we put into this school district, in the people, in the programs, and those two things, when I say people, the staff, and the programs, those two things went hand in hand. And we made those investments. Those are in there, and those are embedded in there and projected to continue because we want the progress to continue. We want our momentum to continue as we go forward. There we go. Okay. Revenues, expenses, and cash balances, okay? In the title is Rise and Run of Revenue, and it's maybe hard to understand, but it's clear. The rise in our revenue occurs only two ways. The state gives us more money, or we get more local property tax revenue, okay? There's kind of a distant third that says, okay, well, when interest rates change, we get more money on our investments. That's a big one that comes in. There are where if the federal funding increases a little bit, but they tell us how to spend that, okay? That comes in there. But those two sources of revenue, we will, the total revenue rises if we get more from the state. The total revenue will rise if we get more local funding. The local funding in this district occurs one of two ways. Property valuation increase, or voters say yes to a ballot issue. That's it. Those are the two that rise. If you look at the blue line, okay, our property values and the levy passed in 20, so it rose. Kind of had a run, stayed flat for a while. In 2023, started to collect in 2024. Property values rose again. The revenue grew and increases, okay? Rise and the run of those two things, okay? Again, those two, which are highlighted there, the blue bar is our local property tax, the black line, and what do you notice about the black line? Or black bars, they're flat, okay? They're not increasing.
It did go up a little bit, didn't it, from 2023, 24?
For 23-24, there was an there was a
little bit?
slight uptick, and then it goes back down in 25. So we were off the guarantee for a year, and then went right back on. I had the financial consultant that we use run through the same calculations that I did with the state simulation, and one of the nuances that come into play with House Bill 96 and with the current biennium, that's why it's important that we be advocates, is that we are at risk of losing the guarantee, and we are at risk of losing state funding, okay? So right now, what's in House Bill 96 and what's and they're not in these numbers, by the way, okay? Because we still have 3 months to try and keep our guaranteed dollar amount, okay? The state as a whole in House Bill 96, through that proposal, there's been $0 added to K-12 education, but when the simulations come out, we lose $700,000 approximately the first year, an additional $700,000 the second year. So over the 2-year period, if House Bill 96 goes through as it's written today, we will be down $2.1 million over that 2-year period, okay? All right, that's the first time in I don't know how long, okay? We've been fighting for, increases from our state funding. Now we're fighting to keep the same dollar amount. That's a big change, okay, for us. We'll still fight for increases to do that, okay? But that's the rise and run of our revenues, okay? Expenses, the primary driver of those expenses, twofold. Inflation, which over time is going to be 3%. If you go back, there are different inflation indexes. If you look at, there's one that is an education index. It is slightly higher than the normal index that is out there, okay? So inflation drives it, mandates drive it. In other words, when I talk about mandates, and I even hate using the word mandates because it's some things that we should probably do anyway, okay? But when those variables in the enrollment changed, right? Students in poverty, ELL, English language learners, students with disabilities, and in fact more intense disabilities, we're required to address those, even though we don't get any additional money. Okay, so we have to shift things around to make sure we take care of those things to do that. And then the projected enrollment growth, okay? And we've done our homework, not just by looking at building permits, but by talking with developers, okay? And those things are coming, which, you know, David does the chart that says, here's our cohort growth. That cohort growth is really the difference of seniors graduating and kids coming in kindergarten, right? That's the delta that drives that growth, okay? So there's growth just with the students that we have, but there's growth with the plan developments that are coming, okay? That's a real thing. Can we tell you what, exactly when? No, but it's a real thing, okay? It is coming forward. So that does it. Our expenses are really purposefully driven. The caveat that President Patton gave us 2 years ago at the organizational meeting, and correct me if I don't say it the right way, that we're only going to spend money where it's necessary, okay? We're not going to add things. They explained the things that were necessary as we went forward to do that. But most of our expenses, as you see, that it follows an inflationary pattern for that. It follows making sure that we do the right things for our stakeholders groups as we do it. What's the net result of that? Okay. The blue line is our cash balances. The gray line is the delta or the difference between the revenue coming in and the expenses that we have. And so if you see the gray bar above the $0 amount, we're adding money to our cash balances, right? That's why the blue bar increases. You're probably saying, if you look at FY25, well, where's the gray bar? It's a balanced budget, right? So revenues and expenses kind of equal each other, okay? So that is there. 26, we go down, or we start spending more than we receive, that's projected, and so forth, okay? That is a typical pattern. That's not atypical in school funding. The reason why is there's the rise in the revenue, okay? And then it stays pretty much flat for a period of time, okay, until the next time you can get additional revenue. But the expenses are on that gradual incline, right? So you're gonna accumulate money, and then you're gonna spend more than you accumulate over time as it goes forward. We will always, okay, always try to make sure, okay, that we're extending that ask of our community. Right now, it was extended from 24 to 26. If we can move that from 26 to 27, okay, we'll do that. Okay, we can't say for sure right now, but as things go on and variables present themselves where we have the opportunity to do that, we will. What's putting that at risk is our state funding right now, okay? That's really putting us at risk. What's putting it at risk is solutions that are being proposed on the table for property tax reform. I think for the last year or so, towards the end of every meeting, we talk about our advocacy, okay? We do want to advocate for our community, for our taxpayers, okay? Our advocacy goes to, we believe there should be targeted tax relief, okay? We've heard the stories, we know that, okay? You've heard the stories, okay? You've told me the stories, okay? But we really need to advocate for that targeted tax relief for our taxpayers in the community, okay? That needs to be done as we go forward. What are the challenges and opportunities ahead of us? We did talk about that property tax reform and legislation. We did talk about the fair school funding formula where right now there's $0 additional dollars, okay, that's being added statewide. So think about that too in your heads. If we're going down in revenue and there's $0, somebody's going up in revenue, right? Other districts are, okay? That's the way that formula works. We really need to make sure that that guarantee stays in place so we don't lose dollars and have added pressure on the local community. And again, both of these are kind of challenges and opportunities for us. When we look at enrollment growth, it's not a bad thing, right? If we have enrollment growth, there should be property values, additional new construction, you know, coming in to do that but that gives us students. We know that, as David talked about, there is a workforce supply and demand, okay? We know that, and he didn't say it, and I'll say it very clearly. The pipeline to bring, I'll just focus on teachers, let alone support staff, is not there. It's not there the way it was in the past, okay? All you have to do is look at college, different universities who are discontinuing their colleges of education, right? We're not going to get anything out of that. That lack of supply causes a demand. When there is low supply, okay, and we have a demand, there's a financial reality to that, okay? The challenge and an opportunity is that local economy on housing and economic development, okay? If you look at this whole area, right, yes, there's housing that brings students, but yes, there has to be a balance with economic development for commercial, industrial, and other things, okay? That needs to exist with it, okay? The reappraisal occurs every 3 years, okay? I don't know what property tax reform will do. What this last reappraisal did, that is the thing that really drove the state to, I think the phrase that the financial consultant used was bury us in the guarantee, which meant as the higher our local wealth, and the message is real clear. If you gauge local wealth by property valuation per student and by average income per student, the message that is coming to us from the state is, well, we're wealthier than the norm, so you can pay for it locally. That doesn't mean people are going to prove it. That's the way the formula works, right? That's the offset that is there for it, okay? So big picture, where are we going? We moved from 3 to 5% of the lowest spend in the state to 16%. That was primarily driven by a couple factors, 3 factors: passing the levy, the COVID funding, and the reappraisal funding. That helped drive us out of there, okay? If 3 to 5% is the basement, that didn't get us to the first floor. That got us halfway up the stairs to the first floor, okay? So, we're not there yet, but that's progress. There is still the delta in that where we fall when we compare to the state average on spending per pupil and where we fall with our similar school district. There is that difference that's still significant, $2,000 per student plus or minus, and you quantify that to a classroom of 20 students, that's $40,000 in a classroom that we could spend more. Okay, that's significant. Okay, we really need to advocate on the fair school funding model to keep the guarantee in place, even though that is going back to 2000, it says 21, 22, but it's really 2019 levels for this district, okay? We need to say, no, keep the guarantee in place, don't cut funding to the school district, okay?
Dan, can I ask a question real quick? I know it's getting late, but when you say we should advocate for this fair school funding, House Bill 96, how would you suggest we do that?
So, well, first of all, when we go down there on the 18th, right, the 4 of
You want
us.
me to hold a sign? I can hold a sign.
There's messages that we need to give.
We'll prepare
Yeah.
materials, because it's important that we're all consistent and we're all saying the same message, because there's regional things like Southwest Ohio kinds of advocacy, there's Clermont County advocacy, there's specific to West Clermont, and if they end up hearing 1,000 different things, it's not as powerful as if it's a few really strong ones. And so we will tighten up our story for a legislator viewpoint, and like when we talk to them, we just kind of repeat the same things over and over, and then we will make it, in person on the 18th when we're there with them, just make our points and be able to just have more dialogue so they can understand the impact. Because that's the goal. When they make decisions, it can make sense from a big picture, but it's like until you drill down into the impact, they don't always know and see all the ripples. And so that's why we're there. It's just to not be angry and mean at them, but to help them understand the impact of their decisions.
There's 3 major organizations with the superintendent's group, the school boards association, school business officials, and they're aligned on messaging. We're not far off from that. Messages we need to give in addition to fully fund the formula, which which, and now I'll say it out and be straight, fully funding that formula does not give this district any additional dollars. They'll give the total there, but because of the valuation per pupil, it just may lower the gap between our guarantee and what's funded, okay, to do that. We need to advocate to keep the guarantees in place, so we at least get that level dollar amount. We need to, where we can, advocate that on those special categories, which are funded inside the formula, have some consideration that if that is growth to us, and as David identified with the percentages, substantial growth, okay, there may be some additional funding we need for those things, okay? That may be different than other school districts are doing, but I will tell you what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years. We've been front runners in the number of school districts that are guaranteed. We were under the guarantee, that number grew substantially. We were at the 20 mil floor, that number of school districts grew substantially to do that.
So these are things we've been talking about them for years, and now more people are talking about it with them.
That's right. And it's because they're experiencing it, where they weren't on it before, they're experiencing it.
But that's what's complicated about school funding is the school district to the right of us and the left of us, they have a totally different story than we do. So it can be very confusing and sound like, well, how come you're a school in Ohio, how come it's not the same? But nothing about us is the same.
The formula's the same, but there's 611 school districts with different
Versions.
stories,
Right,
different
yes.
variables. Okay. So the other point is, and the last 2 points, is the master facilities plan and program that we have. Okay, we have structured that facilities plan to help program, to help the modern learning environment that is needed, but it's also structured so that as we go forward, our facilities can be taken care of. And it's it took someone to tell us that, hey, that's a value proposition that you need to make sure people know and understand. Well, that's been baked into it, so that here's these facilities, but at the same time, it's just not putting something up out of the ground, replacing some things that are there. It is also with the intention that we are able to maintain those new facilities as well as the care and upkeep for the other facilities that are there. Okay, so that's an important aspect. If that doesn't happen, it's a strain on our operating funds. Okay, that is there. That's the $64 million that between Randy and Chuck and the architects identified exists in those buildings today, that if we don't do something with it, over time, that's what we're gonna spend, okay, to do that. Last thing goes back to the 5-year forecast. As we approach the declining fund balances, okay, and we do that twice a year, the 5-year forecast, that's where the state looks at that, and sooner or later, the state comes back and says, Superintendent Adams, Treasurer Romano, President Patton, what's your plan so that you don't go into further fiscal distress? Okay, so we just have to be conscious of that, but at the same time, balance that with, we have commitments to our community, okay, that we're going to not try to prevent going back to the community for more money, as long as we can to do that.
So we've been using this metaphor of the Jeep to represent the district, because we're saying if we want all kids to be able to create the lives they desire, to be able to be prepared for anything, not just something, then we have to blaze some trails so that they can have their own pathways and create their own story. So our image is represented by these 4 tires that we've talked about all night. The 4 things that have to come together, the learning model, the environments, the workforce, as well as the partnerships, all have to be in alignment for this Jeep to run well. And as you can hear, and the sound of Dan's voice and the stories that you've heard today, it's vulnerable, and it's a critical time for us to be tightening all these bolts and getting really, really focused on the alignment, because we have a serious issue, and that's our modern learning environments. This isn't a desire for new fancy spaces. This is out of need, out of aging buildings and running out of space and expected growth, that we need to take action, because what you're hearing tonight is without taking action here, without investing in a long-term plan, it means the emphasis and the investments in the academics and the classroom and the way that we've been able to do it the last couple of years that have clearly shown an outcome and an increase, will have to switch focus. And it's just as simple as that. So we've been on this decision timeline. We've been at a very rigorous pace over the last couple of years with engagement. And in this last year, I mean, it's been since August, like every meeting, there's been a big decision, big decision, big decision. So now we're to this point where in January, you guys unanimously decided to move forward with putting a choice out there for our voters. Because that's really what this boils down to, is this is a community decision about what kind of school system do you want to have? What kind of environment do you want to create for the children and the youth of West Clermont? Because the challenges that we face, Dan, you can move it on, is the reality that every student and their learning environment is determined by their home address. And we talked about this today in Cabinet, and I wasn't going to share this example, but I just think it's so relevant that I can't help it. Would we be okay if we invested in the boys' athletic teams and made sure they had all the environments and the equipment, everything they needed, but we didn't do that for the girls' sports? Would we be okay with that? No, number one, we'd be in trouble with the law, or with Title IX and all that, but we wouldn't settle for that. And right here, we are saying the learning environments in West Clermont are determined by the house that you live in. So that's a disparity we have that's real. We also know that middle school, and I say this as a passionate middle-level educator most of my career, it's the hardest part of the K-12 experience. And it is the neediest part of the PK, I left out PK, of the PK-12 experience. And in our situation, as brilliant as it was to bring West Clermont together as one unified school district, we have the most vulnerable kids in our school system in a building that was not designed for them. That was built in the 60s. And we have them get up and start school at 7 a.m. Every factor you can put up against them in an environment, in an environmental way, is up against these people, the students and the staff, every single day when they go there. And they rise above it. They do an amazing job. But they're just hurdles that I just can't imagine like what the success could look like if they didn't have to every day go straight up a hill or straight up a mountain and climb that. So these are real significant challenges. Our students' environments are amazing in some places, and it's always hard when you're standing, like we were this last week, of standing in the middle of West Clermont High School, talking to our partners, talking about our environments, and you look around and it's like, could they want for anything? Because this place is amazing. And then we can go down the street and have a vitally different experience. So I've talked about this. Our current realities are about our aging facilities, not having all the spaces that we need for the diverse learning population we've talked about, not having the collaboration space for staff. It kind of goes on and on and on. And you can keep going. We're out of space already at the elementary. This isn't like a problem that we are thinking is going to happen. Like, we're living it now, and we're seeing kind of like worse conditions coming based on David's numbers. And those numbers have served us well. Like they've been very accurate for us over the last couple of years. And so this isn't just a worrywart syndrome. We're living this right now, and on the horizon is more to come. And what we see is if there is not a long-term solution, we see probably modulars as a solution. So you're putting money out there that is not a long-term investment. We have aged and outdated buildings. You can't tell by this picture, and that's the thing. What I hate about our pictures is I feel like they just don't really tell it. You could put what you see in the Holly Hill picture, you could put probably 3 times in what you're seeing at Summerside. And it's not size alone that is an impact. It's the kinds of things that can happen. There's such few things can happen. You can barely even fit a staff in the library at Holly Hill to have a meeting. So you have to go to the cafeteria. Is that the worst thing in the world? No. But is it the best environment for the learning that we need to do with our staff? No, it's not. So it's just, it paints a picture, but I swear it's like you have to be there to really feel it, smell it, and see the difference. Okay. Disparity in our learning environments. Again, I don't think the pictures do it justice, but you see crowded spaces. You see spaces that are beautiful and flexible and more malleable for the kinds of learning that our students expect to have. So you'll see in tonight, we're going to vote on the statement of facts here in a minute, but there is the one pager that we gave you last week. that lays out the proposed plan. The proposed plan is building a new middle-level environment, so it'd be a 5-8 building to deal with the space issues in the elementary, bring all 5 through 8 together to build a really strong middle-level experience. This building is not meant to be a replication of West Clermont High School just down the street. It's meant to feel like two smaller environments that are connected together so that we can best serve those students. We'll build a new elementary school. It'd be a pre-K4 elementary school, reducing from 7 to 6 to be more efficient in our operations. It would allow us, like right now we have an elementary that has 250 elementary kids in it, and we have an elementary that has 800 elementary students in it. So it would allow all those to be more similar in size for efficiency and maximization of resources. We will invest in our current elementary buildings through a renovation at Amelia, additions at WT, additions at Clough, and an additional renovation at WT. And there will be upgrades throughout the school district because we want to become a safer school system. We would do safety upgrades everywhere, technological upgrades everywhere, as well as targeted furniture needs. It wouldn't be a massive buy new furniture everywhere kind of deal, but in specific areas we would add. And this one pager happens to be able to, it breaks down how the OFCC will pay for 20%, the local share would be 80%, giving a strong state commitment in this proposal. And it breaks down how the costs are broken down for both the earned income as well as property, how it affects people individually, and who pays. Because the whole decision that you guys made was to diversify the pay among our stakeholders. And why is this now so important? We've shown you the timelines, and I think it comes up in the slide here in a minute. But it's our current kindergartners are going to be the first fifth graders. And so it's not like you make a decision one day and poof, these things just magically appear. This takes time. And our growth's supposed to come in that time. And so every minute that we stall or put off something, the more vulnerable we are of having students come and needing space for them and not having a long-term solution. We have the 20% now from the Ohio Facilities Commission. Again, that is something that, yes, it's on the table for now, and it will be for a short amount of time. We have about 18 months to come back to them with our local share to be able to keep that percentage intact. So that's a vulnerable thing. It's not a guarantee forever. There's a timeline on this. And obviously, we've talked about this, the inflation of what things will cost as time goes on is a factor. And that's why it's just, Dan does such a great job of keeping us focused on 2030. We don't just think about today. We don't just think about next year. We're thinking to 2030, and there's a lot to consider and to think about. And that's why we really would see a benefit of the OFCC partnership at this time to be able to offset those costs for our taxpayers. This timeline, again, is just a reminder. You've seen it. But the yellow, or the green represents where the enrollment's coming. The yellow shows when things go online. And so what we're trying to match up here is the green with the yellow so that if we're able to go ahead and start putting in space at Clough Pike, space at WT, that can offset these enrollment increases and the time that they're coming and not have us wait all the way till 29 when the other buildings are available. So here's a reminder, and this will be something that you'll vote on tonight. We have another one-pager, and its main focus is to talk about the funding history of West Clermont schools and what happens if the levy passes versus if it fails. Just high level, if it passes, we'll be able to have these awesome learning environments for all of our students, and we won't say that there's a disparity between what some students get versus other students. We will have the OFCC funding that will help offset the larger costs, and it will help support long-term operational stability in our school system. We've talked about that over and over and over tonight, and that's really our greatest concern. If the levy fails, obviously we'll be operating in old buildings versus new buildings and continuing to invest in repairs, etc. We'll continue to rely on modulars as a solution, most likely, for the increased enrollment. We're already doing that at Merwin. And you'll see more and more teachers in traveling teacher kind of situations in mobile classrooms. And then the financial consequences of risking the OFCC money, inflation driving up costs, and just having to divert funds away from everything that we talked about that we've gained over the last couple of years is a real topic of conversation for us. So the bottom line is this is really in our community's hands, and it is our job to be as transparent and open about what we see right in front of us and on the horizon so that everyone can make the most informed decision. What kind of school community do we want to have? What kind of path do we want for our students? It's a community decision. And we are here, our website has been updated, our bond page is updated, all the information in the world is out there. And if we get questions that we think, ooh, probably more people have these questions, then we add those on. So we are trying to stay as current and up to date as possible. We want to invite you, well, wait a minute, keep going, Dan. Oh, yes. So, I know Tammy and Tina will be going up with us on the 18th in March to Columbus. I know advocacy is very important for this team, and we want to continue to be very prepared for that. So I've listed some of the things on there that we will need to advocate for. We want to continue to open up opportunities for volunteering and donating and working with us. We've got really specific, with Tracy's help as well as Josh from Holly Hill, we've gotten really clear about the kind of volunteer opportunities that we have available in our schools between now and the end of the school year. We really can't do this alone. And it's not always just about writing a check. We need human capital in our buildings to help with us with our students. We'd like people to join PTO and boosters, and we say get off the sideline and come into the game. Like we would love to have people right here with us because as you get involved, you understand the complexities of all this and understand a little bit more. Follow us on social media, share the bond facts. I think an informed community will end up making the right decision for our schools. When we share the same data and information, we're all on the same page about that, we're more likely to come to the same conclusions. We have lots of coming. So tomorrow night is our showcase. That's why we need to wrap up so we can all go home so we can come back. March 4th, that's at 6 o'clock at West Clermont High School. It is the second time we'll be doing this event, and it's the only PK-12 event in the school district for the whole year. So it's quite a moment that we are looking forward to sharing. How are our students using these Porch of a Graduate skills in their daily learning? We'll have a Financing Our Future Town Hall, March 19th. That'll be hosted at Amelia Elementary, 6 o'clock. There'll be food, there'll be excitement, there will be lots of great conversation. And then finally, going with our WC Strong theme, we are inviting everyone to tell their West Clermont Strong story. So you can click on that QR code or get on the QR code, go to our website and learn all the details about how you can be featured in one of our upcoming videos or a reel or something that you make yourself. And I won't read all this, but this is what I told you before. It's the chronological where we've been as a district from 2018 to today. So I thank you very much for your time. I know this was a lot, and this isn't the first time or the last time we'll probably say this was a lot, but we think the State of the Schools moment is really important to be very clear with people about where we've been, where we are, where we're headed, and why we're headed there, so that we can strengthen what happens for our students. Are there questions or comments? I know you might want to share those during your board comments, which is fine if you want to hold them, but I don't want to leave anything hanging for you. Okay, then just share your comments during comments. Statement of facts is going to be an action item that we ask of you. Essentially, it looks very similar to last time. The only thing that we're doing is as we tweak and improve the statement of facts presentation, we have on the second slide where if we change a sentence or fix something that we think wasn't unclear, we just state it so that when you look at it, you'll know what had changed from the very first time. So we're not trying to be confusing at all. We're just trying to be current and up to date and relevant. So you'll see that. So there's no substantial content change, just like maybe a sentence here and there, just to provide clarity. That's number one. Number two, this one I just mentioned, this ballot page has been added, and it comes right from the statement of facts. It's just done in a one-pager so that it's easier to consume for people. And you'll see soon, our team has all these came printed in the office today, so we will send them out to the buildings. So as people pick up their children, drop them off, or just in the buildings, we'll have them some tomorrow night at State of the Schools. We have a stack for you guys. All of you got a big stack, not because we think you don't read them, but so that you can share them with people. So you don't have to read them 6 and 7 times. They're for you to share, is the point there. So at this point, I would like to ask that you approve the statement of facts as presented with those few little tweaks and this added, if the levy passes, if the levy fails piece.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion? Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Chumley, thank you. Is there any discussion? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn.
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
5 yes.
My only comment is thank you, Mr. Rudy, for being part of our Partners in Education event. It really, as Mr. Gephardt said earlier, it was a tremendous event. Thank you, Tracy, for all your hard work. And I'm still getting in positive feedback from our partners about that day. And we really are nothing without our partners. And so it was just a great day of celebration. I think I've said enough.
Thank you. Mr. Romano?
So I just echo thanking the board to sustain through the presentation, the staff that was here. I appreciate the 2 community members being here too, because I know now we're going 2.5 hours, so appreciate you staying through that and listening to us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. We will move to board comments. So, Mrs. Spencer.
I get to go first again. Well, you've heard about the great things our schools have achieved over the last few years, starting back with the COVID and beyond. We've definitely done some amazing things with everyone's help and partnership. And it's amazing to see some of the electives that like the 3D lab in the middle school that's going to carry them through, because that is really what's moving everyone forward, the new technology and stuff. And it's great to see, and I think that our schools are doing great, and it's great for the partners and the community to see what we're doing with their investment of the education, so everyone knows what we're doing with it. And I want to thank all the team members that were really involved in putting the presentation together and gathering all the facts and letting us see that, because it means a lot to the community, and like you said, being transparent, let everybody know what's really happening or whatever. But I want to thank everybody for being here and staying tonight too. And I'm excited about going up in March. I won't hold sign, I promise.
Well, you might get to it. We'll see.
Well, if you sit next to me with a sign, I'll say, I don't know who she is.
Thank you, Mrs. Spencer. Ms. Sanborn.
I wanted to do some good news. Heidi Sandlin, as Mr. Patton said, she was supervising nurse and has been named Ohio School Nurse Administrator for the year 24-25. Heidi has really made a difference with her leadership and dedication to student health care and access, so congratulations to her. I want to give a shout out to 3 of our West Clermont High School America's favorite teacher. The first one is Zoe Kaspar. She's a biology and forensic teacher at the high school. Mrs. Kaspar said, I am a mentor and supporter, and I champion for every student who walks into my classroom. Brianna Weber is a physical science teacher at the high school. My purpose is to inspire students, love for science, and teaching curiosity. And the last is Mitchell Farmer, aerospace teacher and assistant varsity coach, football coach. He stated he started a brand new aerospace program for the high school in 2024 and believing in inspiring kids to change the world. And I think that says a lot about our high school teachers and about their dedication to the West Clermont School District, and I commend all of them for all their accomplishments that they have done throughout the years that they have been here.
Thank you, Ms. Sanborn. Mr. Chumley.
I want to thank everyone's presentation tonight. It's always great to hear all the great minds we have around this table. It's truly a blessing, the team that we have, and hearing their passion for their work, which we get to clearly see in presentations like this. A few things that I like to hear tonight is how we're setting that bar high, and that's something that I've kind of felt strongly about for a while. I know, like we talked about, the I know it, and it's showing that the students will meet it, and that's awesome to hear. And it's also cool to hear how parents are talking about things that they wanted and now are seeing happen, and how they're surprised and all that stuff. Because a lot of times you probably do present things to a school or wherever, and you never hear from them. But it's cool to be a part of this and see that we are doing these things, and we are meeting the community and pushing things forward for our students, but also for the community as well. So I want to thank everyone for all the hard work they're putting into this.
Thank you, Mr. Chumley. Mr. Rudy?
First thing, I want to give accolades to Mrs. Hufford's class. I've been following this along. We have a weekly meeting at Kroger. She's knows what's going on. She is not one to toot her own horn, so I really give her moral support and encourage her to pass the word along. Because she had me astounded with what they were doing, and she warned me to watch out for these kids. And she said they're going to go real far. So that's been a really nice thing, cool thing to hear. Secondly, as was mentioned, I was at the breakfast on Tuesday. Dr. Ray, it was beyond expectations. Fantabulous, I think is a word I might want to use. It was wonderful. I sat with some nice people at my table and made some new friends. I really enjoyed it. One of them's an international organization, and I volunteered to help with them. I just can't say enough. You had plenty of food. It was great food, great conversation. I noticed Mrs. Adams was walking around talking to many, many people, as was Mr. Young. I was very impressed. It was so big, though, I couldn't see much. That's my little corner. Did see a lot of West Clermont grads there. I was glad to see that they've come back and worked with us and are productive members of society. And that's it.
How many weekly meetings at Kroger do you have?
I have a lot. I have a reputation for being a talker. That's why they hired me.
Are you done talking? Thank you, Mr. Rudy. I will keep mine as brief as I can here. So again, as everybody else has said, I do appreciate the information, the team, and the presentation that they put forward. I appreciate the facts that we're giving to the community. As Ms. Adams says, not that the sky is falling, these are just facts. This is realities. In order for us to continue moving in a forward direction, these are the steps that need to be taken. Most importantly, while I appreciate everyone, it always comes back to Dan and the finances. That's where the big hurdles come into play. And so I appreciate how you're able to make it in layman's terms for us to understand. Every day I learn something new, and every time I talk with you, I learn something new that I did not know previously, and so for that I appreciate it. So yes, those are my comments. I appreciate everyone and what they've done. With nothing else, I do not believe we have a need to go into executive session, so I assume we'll be fighting over if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn. Mr. Rudy? Okay. Mr. Chumley, second. Mr. Rudy, Mr. Chumley. I assume there's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
5 yes. 8:30 or 9:33.
Oh, I did forget to say that. Yeah.